So I am Trish the Dish, and we're here at Mashallah Yoga Studio for the Astro Talk for May of 2018. And for those of you viewing that Facebook Live or here, I usually have a theme for when I look at the month and see like what's going on, and then I'll give the month a theme. And so the theme for May, this May, is transform structures and ambitions in solid ways. So, see, she's climbing a ladder. She's still reaching for her heights, but she's grounded. So, and then this is just a little thing I do for the people who haven't been able to show up, so that if they wanted to contribute dollars, they could by going to paypal.me/Zephram Yates. And there's the coins, there's the dollars, there's your firstborn child, but I won't really take care of it, so don't give me that one. So this is actually the chart for right now, May 2nd, 7:15 p.m. And basically, I know, some of us know what the astrological chart wheel looks like, but everything, this is like the horizon line, and everything that's above the horizon is like daytime, and everything that is below is like nighttime. So this is from the perspective of Earth. It's a geocentric model or Earth-centered model, so from the perspective of Earth. So you can see, since this is the horizon line, the sun, right here, the circle with a dot, is still above the horizon because it has not gotten dark yet. And so that's what we have going on here. But there's a lot of other planets below the horizon right now. And then just so that you have an idea of what you're looking at, all of the zodiac signs are along the outside here, and then all the planets are in the inside, and they only travel through that area of the sky that we call the zodiac belt. So like the Big Dipper moves with itself, and so does like Leo and Cancer. They all stay in the same relationship with each other. But the planets are the wanderers and then travelers, and they basically travel through only that very small area of the sky. And the zodiac signs there's 4 different elements. There's fire, earth, air, and water that repeat. Fire, earth, air, and water. Fire, earth, air, and water. And so, when we talk about, it's like really grounded right now, or it's really out there, you'll have some frame of reference with the elements. But then there's also qualities, and the qualities are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And when the planets are going through cardinal signs, the cardinal signs are the initiator signs. It's like when the sun is going through one of the cardinal signs, it's the beginning of a new season. When it's going through a fixed sign, it's holding down the fort of that season. And then when it's going through a mutable sign, it's the changes between one season and the next. So, if you were like me, hey, if you were like me in 2016, there's like all this changeable energy, and you're like, too many things going on. So cardinal signs are the initiator signs that begin each one of the seasons. Fixed signs hold down the fort of each season. Mutable signs are the changes between one season and the next, and they repeat. So cardinal, fixed, mutable, that would be like summer. Cardinal, fixed, mutable for that's spring, summer, and then cardinal, fixed, mutable for fall. Cardinal, fixed, mutable for winter. I love that I have all friends in the room. So the other thing, besides us looking at the zodiac signs and the planets, is that we'll be looking at the relationships between some of the planets also. Hello there.
Hi.
Welcome. So if you see a big red line, you'll know that these are planets that are opposite each other. So that's like when the moon is full, the sun and the moon are always opposite. And so then you'll see an opposition. You can see there's a couple of oppositions. Or if you see other red lines that are like this, that's a 90-degree angle, and those are called squares, so they're a point of challenge. So we'll talk about squares, but we'll also talk about trines, which are, you can see the big blue lines are trines, which are 120 degrees apart, and they are forming a point of harmony. And then there's half a trine, which is a sextile, so that's 60 degrees, and those are harmonious also. And then, what else? Sometimes there's really weird ones that I'll talk about in terms of like different kinds of relationships that planets might have. And there's this one here with these little green lines. These are called the quincunxes, and they are two equidistant quincunxes here forming a thing called a yod. So we're going to talk about that too. It's just so that if I do start geeking out, you're like, oh yeah, she said that. But I'll try to explain it more. And then for you guys that just came in, I was saying that this is a geocentric model or Earth-centered model of the celestial sphere. So that means it's from the perspective of Earth, and everything that's above the horizon is like daytime, and everything that's below is like nighttime. And this is actually the chart for today at this time, so that you can see the symbol for the sun is above the horizon because it hasn't gone dark yet. So, and then I'll just show you, usually I have a theme, and I'll just go back to the theme. This is the theme for May, and it's the transform structures and ambitions in solid ways. So we have people at home can contribute their firstborn child or gold. Of course you probably have been feeling like there's a lot of stuff going on and there's a lot of transition. And I know we just had our full moon on Sunday, and it was kind of a doozy for a lot of people. I mean, I did okay, but they're just, there's all kinds of things. I had like an Airbnb guest who got really sick and threw up in the bathroom and heaved so hard he broke the toilet, like he broke the seal and then he cracked the inside of the toilet. I was like, how does somebody do that? Like, how does it happen? So anyhow, I've had this whole toilet fiasco, so it's like, totally, literally money going down the toilet. But, you gotta deal with these things. Stuff you gotta deal with. So Saturn has been a really big player as the last full moon that we had. Saturn is this symbol right here. It looks like a 4, kind of stylized 4. And it was making a trine to the sun, and when the sun was when it was actually opposite, it was making a sextile to the moon. So it was kind of bringing it in. So everything that felt more solid was the thing that was really going to work. Otherwise, if it's not solid, it's like not working. Like your toilet. But anyway, but Saturn is still important in today because we still have this yod going to Saturn. And so usually it's like if you have a yod in your chart, in your birth chart, it means it's like a special talent that you have that you must use. If you don't use it, you feel like you're gone crazy or something. So you gotta really focus on that. And so today it's still a little more focus on Saturn. And you can think, well, if you know something about your own chart, like if you know where Capricorn is in your chart by house, then you can know a little bit about how it might be playing out in your life. The houses are different divisions of life. There's 12 of them, like there are 12 signs. And so the first house is about personality, the second house is about finance and values, third house is about communication and the mind, fourth house is about home, fifth house is about self-expression, sixth house is about health and work environment, The 7th house is partnerships and relationships of all kinds. 8th house is sexuality, altered states, inheritances, legacies, death, that kind of thing. The 9th house is sort of the long journeys, travel, higher education, philosophy of life house. The 10th house is career, public standing, and the 11th house here is about wishes, dreams, aspirations, and then the 12th house is like they call it the house of self-undoing, or the karmic clearing house. So if you have planets in your own chart that are in the 12th house, they say it's like you have energy that comes with you from other lives that you're still playing out in this one. So I know I went through that fast, but that's only because I'm hoping that you all know your charts and you're like, I think my Capricorn is in the 4th house, where mine is. I have a lot of lessons to learn, obviously, at home right now. So, so anyway, must focus on the situation. But the other thing that's like, now Saturn just went into Capricorn in December, around, it was December 21st, it was winter solstice. And usually Saturn takes about 2.5 years or 3 years to go through a sign. So we kind of, started a new phase at that time. And, we also have 2 other planets that are in Capricorn right now too, and those are Pluto and Mars. And Pluto is known as the great transformer, and Mars is about passion. And it's the warrior planet. And so they come together, Pluto, the great transformer, and Mars, it's sort of, military might and, we'll do this. So it's fairly intense. It was exactly conjunct on April 28th or something. But it's still going to stay conjunct through the first 2 or 3 weeks of May. You thinking something, dear Beth?
Just thinking about Mars.
Thinking about Mars? Yeah, well, yeah, Mars is kind of interesting because astrologers, it used to be that astrologers were only consulted by the king. They're only royal, rulers would have their charts done. And the astrologer was consulted by the king or whatever ruler was ruling to know whether it was a good time to go to war or not. And the positioning of Mars was apparently very telling. I don't know if it's ever a good time to go to war, but this is like, really? Is this what the history is kind of about? Then one thing that's cool is that they have a lot of, there's things about Mars, like you have Mars at your ascendant, which is the sign of the eastern horizon when you're born. If it's right there, or right at the midheaven at the top of the chart, they'll be like, well, you're a warrior. And now there's studies. There's a guy named Gopalan who did studies on that, where he looked to see about, people that had achieved high rank in military and, gotten black belts in different martial arts, and did they have anything like prominent Mars, like Mars conjunct their sun or moon, or the ascendant, or at the midheaven. And then he found statistically significant amount of people did have some strong Mars placement, and he was an astronomer who was trying to disprove the theories of astrology, so he was very unhappy about the situation. So, but I digress, because we're here to talk about May. So there's a few things that we'll talk about. You can see there's a lot of blue lines, so there's, despite all the big challenging lines, there's still a lot of harmony. There's support for dealing with some of the challenges that we are facing. It's definitely a transition month because, like I told you how Saturn moved into Capricorn December 21st, 2017, we have another planet that's going to be moving into a new sign mid-May, and that is Uranus. Uranus is known as the planet of change, and it stays in a sign for about 7 years. And it went into Aries, I think it was March 11th of 2011, and that was the day that we had the Fukushima earthquake and all that business with the tsunami, and astrologers were like, we don't know what's going to happen, like Uranus is going to Aries, and then suddenly, we're like, oh no. And, Uranus is the planet of change, and it's the planet of rebellion, and so there's, that was a major thing, and then, it stays in a sign for 7 years, and right now it's gonna be in Aries until May 16th, like 15th, 16th, and 16th it's definitely in there. And so right now it's at what they call the critical degree, or the 29th degree, because each one of these zodiac signs are 30 degrees of arc each. So when you get to the 29, you're at the very end, the tail end. And so the part of this last 7 years has been, we want change now! But then it's been squaring Pluto, which has been going through Capricorn. Pluto is like a deep, long, take time to transform, and in Capricorn, structures. So this has been kind of giving birth with the Occupy movement, the Arab Spring, the mortgage crisis. It was also Uranus and Pluto were square during the Great Depression of the 1930s as well. So that it's not the Great Depression, but it's been this Great Recession. It's a worldwide planets with larger orbits where we're like, whoa, we all noticed. So one thing that's great about May is that towards the end of May, this Uranus-Pluto square starts to ease up, which we've been waiting for. Because it's hard to get through some of this. I mean, I almost lost my house at one point, and sometimes I still worry, because it's tricky. So, anywho, we're at the critical degree with Uranus here. So that's going to, sort of like I'm finishing up. And so I'm going to move on to the next slides because I don't want to get too lost here, but I wanted to at least orient you a little bit to what we're going to talk about. Does any of it make sense? Yes-ish? Mm-hmm. You can ask questions. That's the beauty of being here in person. You're getting thumbs up. Great. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Pluto-Mars conjunction because it's pretty epic. I mean, Pluto has an orbit of 248 years, and so it hasn't been in Capricorn since before the American Revolution, since the 1770, like before 1776 is when we had Pluto in Capricorn. So we're kind of watching the end of capitalism, or that dream. It is dying before our eyes, but won't be really dead until 2020, end of 2024. So, but this is kind of like the unrest that the colonies were feeling is probably similar to what we're feeling now. Hey there. So, anywho, we're talking about Pluto and Mars because it's been conjunct together, and Pluto is also associated with Hades, the god of the underworld, and then Mars, the god of war. So to have those two together in Capricorn, it's definitely powerful players, and looking at the deep transformation of structures and ambitions. But it's also some of the corruption in politics is just like, let's shed a light on all that. Let's not try to hide anything. And so it's just really out there for us to see, the corruption in politics and the war machine. But there's, it's because it's Capricorn, everything is kind of like, it's like a mountain goat. You go, you take the steps you need to take to get to where you want to go. And so that's why maybe like you may feel there are potent delays I know I've been trying to find a new renter for my house, and maybe even Andy's watching. And I'm like, when will it happen? I want to know. Every day I want to know. And try to get the housemates to talk to each other, and oh, I didn't remember. But I would still want to know. Yeah. So this Pluto-Mars conjunction is going to linger through mid-May. So. And then I did tell you a little bit about Saturn in Capricorn, that it entered at December 21st, 2017, and it's going to be going through Capricorn through March 23rd of 2020, and then it kind of goes forward into Aquarius for a little bit, not too long, and then July 2nd through December 18th of 2020, Capricorn it's going to be good for Capricorn then too. So it's almost really a 3-year period of time. So if you do have an idea of where Capricorn is in your chart, then you can be, oh, well, this is just the area where I have to do my work right now. And just, put my nose to the grindstone and just do that thing. So it's not going to always be about toilets, it might be about something else. But you missed the toilet stuff. That's fine. And one thing is that each one of the zodiac signs has a ruling planetary body that it's associated with. So Saturn is at home in Capricorn because Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn. So, here it's, setting up real structures for ambitions, laying new foundations, doing the work and being rewarded. And it's, an opportunity to make your life better. And here's a key: find joy in accomplishments. Because it's, it's work, all work and no play. It's not always fun. So remember, it can be fun as well to get shit done and do what you must. Hi there.
Hi. Sorry I'm so late.
That's all right. You're here. And then the Saturn in Capricorn is a test for humility and those in power, apparently. And it's the time to look at the long term and find ways to be responsible stewards. So, and if you wonder when the last time it happened, when Saturn went through Capricorn, it was November of 1988 to February of 1991. So all of those people that are born in that time period are going through what they call the Saturn return, where Saturn comes back to the place where it was when you were born. And that's sort of like a growing up. You're maturing into the form that you are going to really be able to move forward with. So now we get into the future, tomorrow. This is actually the chart for Friday, but the May 3rd and 4th days looked really similar. So, and I picked this one because it just was a little more potent. We're still talking about Capricorn because not only are Pluto and Mars together in Capricorn, but on Friday, the Moon and Saturn are going to be exactly conjunct in Capricorn too. So there's a lot of strong Capricorn energies there. So it's really going to activate you because you have so many Capricorn energies, but you're used to it, riding it out. And, if you do have, like I know I've got, my Venus is in the late degrees of Capricorn, so I've got Pluto and Mars there, so by transit, so it's, soon enough I will be having to make friends with the unknown in some ways, or like some aspect of myself. And that's what a Pluto transit is about. But this is, it kind of asks for clarity in a way. Here, everybody wants an answer. You're going to make a choice and stick with it. That's the plan. And this is one of those, you get what you work for. There's, Capricorn structure and discipline. And then the other thing about this is that, it's this Capricorn energy is squaring Mercury in Aries, as well as squaring the Mars, squaring Uranus in Aries. So there's, Aries is all about wanting to do new things, and Mercury, which deals with the mind, Mercury in Aries is like, oh, new ideas, get a reality check. You know? So that's a lot of what this, these next 2 days are going to be about. And but again, there's a lot of beautiful harmonies, all these blue lines, and we're going to talk more about them because a lot of them stay happening throughout the month. So I don't want you to get the glaze. I need too much information to take in. Now you know that Pluto and Mars are together right now, but by 2020, Saturn is going to move forward enough that it's going to make a conjunction with Pluto. That's a really big deal because then they're two big players. But also by 2020, the planet Jupiter, which is the planet of luck and expansion, will also come in conjunct Pluto. So it'll be Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter all coming together.
Do you know at which degree?
I think it's about 21, from what I remember, but I don't read my books, so 21, 22, something like that. 20. It's there. So this is preparing for the grand letting go, which will happen. I did some earlier talks on 2020 where I was like, the shit's gonna hit the fan, and I had like, you know, memes that had fans blowing matter around. But it's like when you have the end of a waning moon. It's called the balsamic phase of the moon. This is like the end phase of this Pluto, of Pluto's 248-year orbit. And so it's sort of a, you know, it's this large balsamic phase coming to an end, but a very big phase. And so there's, you know, it's sort of like a lighthouse shining in the dark. Can you find your way? And the counsel is between now and 2020 to remain focused on what you can control. So like, you know the things that matter and the things that you can control, and then you should focus on somewhere in there. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. So, and sometimes I like to give people like here's what I'm going to do to make it practical, so it's not just this like, okay, you know. So I am going to give this dog her own haircuts. I went to she needs haircuts, otherwise she sheds like crazy. And she's my dog. And she's very smart, but I've been bringing her to the groomers to get her haircut, and they don't want to do it anymore unless they also give her a bath, which costs twice as much. So I have gone to Petco, got some cheap, good hair clippers, and I'm going to cut her own hair. And so now I'm going to save all this money from the groomers because I didn't like their attitude. And I couldn't control their attitude, but I could control whether I go back to see them or not. And the other thing is, this dog, she's going to be 8 years old. She acts more like 8 months old. And I've gone through a lot of emotional, like, I can't handle it, I break down. She's very smart. She knows her rights and lefts in words. She performs on stage. She loves children. She doesn't dig, you know, she doesn't shoot things that aren't her. She's very loving, but she is like she has a lot of energy. And sometimes it's a lot for me to manage. Because I used to have a nice, mellow dog that was really easy and telepathic. So now my vet was like, you could give her small amounts of melatonin. You know, just take her down just like a notch. And so just on the day she starts acting like a little bit like gonna go crazy, I've been doing it. It's not big doses. but it's just enough to make her pleasant. So, and it's not bad, it's not hurting her, but it's what I'm doing. And so that's what I'm doing to control situations. I can't change who she is. I've tried. So we're going to work with who she is right now. And so here's the other advice for all this Pluto stuff, because it can help you to get in touch with your ambitions and your aims and what you would want to do in a core way. And so it's live your dreams to the best of your abilities, except for the scary ones, like where a reality TV star becomes president and acts like a numbnut. But don't worry about that. So May 5th, this is Saturday, and so Saturdays we still have more of this energy with Capricorn and all the planets coming together, and now the moon is going to be conjuncting Pluto and Mars. So it should be, again, another potent day of doing what you got to do. If it's a nice day, and sometimes I have to make it to farmer's market to juggle, must do it, that can be good. But some of the other things about this aspect is, despite the pressures that we might feel to do whatever we have to do on our long laundry list of things, still try to make good and right choices, because we're kind of at it's like a pivotal time. This month is like, you think, oh, I'll just say yes to this, when you don't really feel it so much. You just sit, okay. You go, just get some other housemate, and it's not really right, but no, that's not a good idea. So do your best to just, be patient, make good choices. And then since Pluto is the planet of transformation, there's a lot of death and rebirth themes generally going on. So it's definitely a pivotal time in history. We think we're watching the end, and in a way we are, but we're also people that can help create what's next. So that's pretty cool. One thing that's still going on this week, and is this sun. The sun is making a nice sextile, on Saturday, sextile to Neptune. Neptune is known as the god of the sea, or the dissolver. It's the planet of illusion and fantasy, the planet of compassion and understanding. And it's going through its home sign of Pisces. It usually takes 11 to 13 years to go through a sign. And so it's at the 15th. It's like it's really halfway through. So like our spiritual involvement, like maybe we're like, we're gonna go to another level. So there's something there, but it's making a nice harmonious sextile to the sun, giving a little bit of energy to the trine that is also making with Jupiter, the planet of luck and expansion. Now Jupiter stays in a sign for about a year, and it went into Scorpio on November 8th, May, of the fall. So it's going to stay, and it takes about almost 12 years to get all the way around. It's like 11 years, 8 months. So we say almost 12 years. And it stays in a sign for for a year. And Scorpio is the sign of transformation. It's sort of when the sun's going through Scorpio, we have the leaves are falling down from the trees, and they're, giving kind of, sort of natural compost to the soil, and so it's going to transform. There's a lot going on beneath the surface. And here with Jupiter, the planet of luck and expansion, going through Scorpio, We've had a lot of focus on the Me Too movement this year, that, you know, all these things that we needed to really look at in terms of power dynamics and sexual politics that were not really quite ethical. And so there's some of that, but then right now, since Jupiter is a planet of expansion and we have Neptune, the planet of dreams and compassion and understanding, both making a nice harmonious trine in water signs, there's a lot of empathy, a lot of support for empathy, and that to be able to, despite all that we have to, you know, do in the real world here with all this Capricorn stuff, you can still dream it. It sort of supports your inner world and our inner processes. So that's pretty cool. I know this is all kind of chunky, but it's going to get a lot easier towards the end of the month. And you see those beautiful trines, and then June looks like that too. At least the first week, a little bit the second. So, you know, don't be scared. You know, these aspects. There's this other thing. There is that is an asteroid. It's called Chiron. It looks like a key. And Chiron just moved into Aries in like a few weeks ago. It was the 18th of April. And so Chiron is one of the biggest of the asteroids in the asteroid belt. And it's got its own orbit. It's almost big enough to be a planet. And so they call it the wounded healer, and it's making a square to Saturn. Saturn's in the early degrees of Capricorn, which is a cardinal sign, and then Chiron's in the early degrees of Aries, which is a cardinal sign. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Oh, this was all Capricorn stuff, but I already told you all these things. Well, the Pluto 248-year cycle coming to an end, and it went from 2008 to 2024. And the last time Pluto was going to Capricorn was 1762 to 1777. So, anyway, I already told you that stuff. So this is Chiron. So you can kind of see it has this elliptical orbit, and it's kind of wild because it's it goes between Jupiter and Saturn, and then it goes way out beyond Uranus. So in the full orbit of Chiron, it's like a 51-year orbit. So when you're 51, there are other things, there's similar things to what's going on when you were 21, where you're like, I thought I knew what I was doing, but what am I going to be when I grow up? You have that same process all over again when you're 51, but then you also get a Chiron return. Chiron comes back to the place where it was when you were born. And wherever Chiron is in your chart is kind of where your greatest healing potential is as well. So, anyway, you know, because of its elliptical orbit, it spends like 2 years in some signs, and it spends 8 or 9 years in others. And it's going to stay in Aries for about 8 years, I think, till 2026 sometime. The last time that Chiron was in Aries was in 1968. So, you know, just to kind of give a little reference, we had the Martin Luther King assassination, we had the Vietnam War, there was a real big push for nuclear disarmament, we had the CND, what does it stand for? Center for Nuclear Disarmament, I think that's what it stands for. There was a camp in England, the Green Common Camp, and so they made a lot of progress. And so the idea is while Chiron goes through Aries, it's a time to take action, Aries, to protect our vulnerabilities, Chiron, the wounded aspects. So, whether it's about gun control or the environment or some other thing, we turn our weaknesses into a strength. It's a process. Then you can look at, well, where is Aries in your chart? What can you heal? And, what house is Chiron going to be traveling through? To kind of get an idea of what's best. And then we have May 7th, 8th, and 9th. This is Monday, 7th and 8th. This is Monday and Tuesday next week, but this is the chart for Tuesday. The moon will have moved away from Capricorn and into Aquarius. So that's going to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. And the other thing is that Mercury will have moved so much forward through Aries that it's going to start to conjunct Uranus. That means come together. And so it's very much like a think outside the box kind of aspect. But at the same time, Uranus is the square between Uranus and Mars is going to be becoming more strong, close. I'm going to fix some of this. Excuse me. Because I think it could be a little there. Like if you have Uranus and Mars square in your own chart, they'll be like, it's a little volatile. They're fine until they suddenly blow up. So if you're feeling a little volatile in these times, it's just do your best to keep your head on. I know I had one today. I was like, why is everybody so slow? I was like, I can't stand living in the country. That can happen. It's like it's such a peaceful location. I should have been on my bike. I could work it out. It's like that's one thing with these volatile aspects. You can get physical and you're fine. Anyway. Then there's other squares going on too. Venus and Neptune are going to be exactly square on Monday and Tuesday, and they're going to be squaring in these mutable signs, which are the changeable, adaptable energies. So it's like change and shifting of plans. It's just the advice is to kind of be like, well, if things change, it'll have a hissy fit about it. Just be like, okay, that's how it's supposed to be right now. Let's go. Let's go. The other thing about Venus square Neptune, since Venus also rules love and art and that sort of thing, and Neptune illusion, there may be some illusions in love. Like, what's real? Is that real? Like you don't really know, but I think it could be, but you don't know. So don't know. And then still Jupiter and Neptune are going to be triming, just that harmonious 120-degree angle. So they're fluid inner potential. So good time for inner work. Supports dreams and ideals and empathy. We already talked about how Neptune's in the mid-degrees, but now it's moved into 16 degrees, so it's like, okay, beyond the middle. And we're going to have a little mini break soon, but first, May 9th, 10th, and 11th, which this is the chart for the 10th, and that's a Thursday. So it's like Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week is what this is about. And similar to how today we had a yod that went to Saturn, on this Thursday, and actually most of all those days, but it's Thursdays kind of, I think I probably chose it because it was the most clear. There's another yod, but this one goes to Gemini, with Jupiter and the Mars-Pluto conjunction as this harmonious base to this inconjunct, they call it. And so it's kind of one of those, like, sometimes people who have a yod can put things together in ways that no one else would think to do, but somehow it works out. Or like, when you have these quincunxes, it's like, it's really great if you're a comedian, because you can be like, you put weird stuff together that nobody else would think to do, and it's really funny. So, so anyway, because Gemini rules communication, this is an aspect where like communications strangely work out. Like I'm going to be training a new workstage at the front desk, and it's totally going to work out. Even though she can't get here on time, because she already told me she wouldn't be able to. But it's gonna be fine. And Uranus is at the critical degree because it's only gonna be in Aries until the 15th. So it's like it's getting, it's really this whole like, the last hurrah of that, but the last hurrah of Uranus and Pluto squaring each other. Now, and there is a point when Uranus will go back into Capricorn, Uranus will go back into Aries and then go forward again later on in the year, but, it's almost really over, almost. And so it's sort of like the home stretch of the recession era crap. And on this Thursday, the moon and Neptune are conjunct together in Pisces, harmonizing with Jupiter and Sun. So there's, even though we have these big squares here and there's still a lot of harmony. On the 11th, the moon moves over to Aries, so it will conjunct Chiron, so it's still a different kind of feeling, different vibe day. But it's sort of healing in new ways on the horizon. So that's that. And then this is just sort of to like put it together more on the like May 5th through the 15th. So we're on the 2nd today. So it's kind of similar. We still, we'll have this, but the 5th through the 15th, Mercury starts getting closer to Uranus, and this is a chart for the 10th, so I'm still kind of on that Thursday where I'm training somebody. We still have, we have this square, but it's also with the Mercury making a square to Pluto and Mars now, and it's going to be also, part of it is communicating about things beneath the surface. So maybe we won't just talk about how to sign yogis in. We might have a deeper conversation about life. I don't know. But it's kind of, we're on the edge of something. We're sort of, pregnant with change, as Rick Levine, he said in his recent one. But I thought, oh, that sounds good. Throw that in there. I just watched his thing today. I'm like, oh, that is good. But it is, it's like we're gonna, ride through a rough spot in this time period, this transition between now and mid-May. But our dreams are still encouraged. And we're just gonna finish up some old business here. This is, we have like a little interactive section where we can talk for, about 5 minutes or so, or a few minutes at least. Yay! Okay.
Yeah.
So we went through the first couple of weeks of May, and you guys can tell her all about it now that you know everything, right?
Yeah.
we do have a lot of Capricorn stuff going on the first couple of weeks, and the tail end of Uranus and Aries. Because Uranus is going to be in Aries until May 15th, and by May 16th it moves into Taurus for a 7-year journey. So it's the last hurrah of Uranus going through Aries, which is kind of a big deal. So finishing up business, tying up the loose ends. Now, on May 13th, 14th, and 15th, this is a chart for the May 13th, which is not this Sunday, but next Sunday. It's, kind of the waning moon. So if you want to, let's go all get together for a meeting. I don't think so. You should stay home and relax and sleep because it's a waning moon. Now see, this is the sun. If the moon, if it was a new moon, then the moon would be like in front of, either together or in front of the sun. If it was first quarter moon, it would be over here. If it was a full moon, it would be opposite. If it was last quarter moon, it would be here. But now you can see, it's going to be waning moon. Everybody's going to get tired. Even though it's spring, it's still even like, ooh, I love spring. Let's take a nap in the sun. So that's something.
We're going to see that a lot here too, because graduation will have just happened. And
yeah.
Partied out and trying to scramble and move and
Yeah. So it's the end of this lunar cycle, and yes, our college student friends will probably be very tired from all the things. On this day, this is the Sunday, the Moon, Mercury, and Uranus are all going to be conjunct. It's going to be partially, this is at noon, so it will start out that they're conjunct in Aries, and then they'll still stay conjunct with these guys moving into Taurus, but they're close. They're all close. So that makes the square between Uranus and Mars pretty strong, and this is a day that Uranus and Mars have an exact square. So earlier when I was talking about Uranus and Mars, like you have a Uranus square Mars in your chart, that it's very volatile, and that maybe you're already feeling that way. Like I explained about how annoyed I was with how slow everybody drives in Arcata today. I actually beeped at somebody. I'm like, will you just move? I'm like, man, I gotta go take a chill pill. So, anyway, that happened. So, but anyway, this Sunday, it's a Sunday, so there shouldn't be any reason to be beeping at people. No need for an emergency situation. But these are volatile energies for change that are going on. And it's the 13th, 14th, and 15th. And it's the preparation for Uranus going into Taurus on the 16th. Now there's a new moon that happens on the 15th. It's going to be at 4:48 a.m. on the 15th. So then that's when the moon will be, this is 13th, the Sunday, 14th, and then the moon will be right here early morning on the 15th. Early morning. So there's a new moon. So we're going to start something of a new cycle starting on the 15th. Now Mercury, is squaring Saturn here also, so it's definitely a time to talk and deal with structures at the same time. We want to talk about things. We want to make it real. I don't know what that is. I just know what the planets look like. So, don't be surprised if it's like all your new ideas are still getting a bit of a reality check, but actually, that's not square. Oh, that's trying, that's better. There's not so much reality check as earlier in the month. Sorry, I do these things late at night, and so actually it's starting to trine. So some of your ideas might have some solid support around here. So glad I noticed that. So then we have the May 16th shift, where Uranus goes into Aries. Woo! Taurus. Taurus goes into Taurus. And it's still conjunct Mercury in Taurus. And so this is, Uranus is the planet of shock and surprise. It has a very unusual orbit. It's part of it is because its axis isn't like off to the side, but it's like this. So it's like doing like weird, it travels strangely in space. But it's going to be a new 7-year cycle that goes till 2026. And this is, since Taurus rules values and it's an earth sign, and it's kind of about the change in money systems. And Uranus kind of rules the radio waves and digital, inventions and, all kinds of things. So we may, start shifting into more digitized currency more often. Maybe, paper money is going to start to be less and less used. It's already been that way, but it's probably going to go more in that direction. It also could mean a revolution for Earth's environment, because Uranus is the planet of revolution and rebellion, and here it's going through an Earth sign for 7 years. Another thing about this next 7-year period is that since Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius, and it's very independent energy, we say that there's more independent ways actually support ourselves to thrive more. So it's like, you have this idea to do your own independent business. It's probably going to work better than if you work for somebody else. Or, if you do work for somebody else, then find your way to make your job very individualized contribution to whatever that business is. Probably the more unique and practical ways, the better. So, anywho, that's the next 7-year trend. That's starting May 16th. And then this is a chart for Friday, May 18th. The 17th is actually when Mars moves into Aquarius. So it's going to be leaving Capricorn. So all this, like, do the work you gotta do. A little less about that and more about your vision for what you might be impassioned about. There's a lot of beautiful things going on. You can see this full-on triangle here. That's a trine, a grand trine of planets in water signs. So there's a lot of empathy and a lot of kind of emotional ease here. But then the other thing about this is that it's creating a thing called a kite. You can see how these two blue lines go to Pluto and Capricorn, and it forms what looks like a kite. You guys see that? So the tether of the kite is the moon in Cancer, and then the top of the kite is Pluto in Capricorn. So it's a good day to kind of nurture your ambitions, and so you can fly. This is a Friday. I love it because I have Fridays off. Maybe I'll do a bunch of writing when I got Mars conjunct my Mercury in Aquarius, start finishing that third set from Gates' book. There's another cool thing about this day is that there's this thing called a mystic rectangle, which is happening. You can see how there's a trine here, and there's a sextile here, and there's a sextile there. But there's also a trine here. So it's kind of hard to see because there's a lot of other lines, but it's called a mystic rectangle. It's the best usage of energies. So it's pretty nice. And yet, we do have a lot of we have these squares here. We have Mercury and Uranus are squaring what are called the nodes. And the nodes are theoretical place for where the Earth's plane and the Moon's plane meet in space. And there's where the eclipse points happen. So, and they usually, like there'll be, the nodes are always, they're an imaginary point, but wherever the nodes are
The phone
is...
went off. There you go.
What's that?
The phone went off.
Oh, that's because I didn't give enough juice to it earlier. Oh well, people. I'm going to put it up on YouTube later because I had this situation going on. So, anywho, the nodes are, it's basically where the eclipse points are. So it's not the biggest square, but it is happening. But I think the one thing that is a bigger deal, actually don't ignore this because this is some of my late night not thinking correctly. So anyway, but despite all these squares, we still have some square action going on with Venus and Chiron and Saturn. So this does look like there's some healing to be done to find balance. But generally, a sense of relief begins around May 18th. Because it's been in the first couple of weeks of May, it's not a lot of stuff going on. And then the 19th, 20th, and 21st are also dynamic days, but they still have a lot of trines. We have these what are called T-squares, and it's almost a full-on square, but it's not. It's like we have a square here and a square there, and not an actual full-on square over here. But these are all in fixed signs, so it's kind of acting in the center of things as a way to be in the center and just be a mover and shaker and do what you got to do. There's another weird thing about this day is the 20th of May. There's a thing called Thor's hammer. And it's like when there's a square, and here we got between Venus and Chiron. So there's like, it's challenging to heal the things that you love or find the right way to nurture new ways to heal. But because we have this Thor's hammer, these sesquiquadrates all the way down to Jupiter, you will be able to expand deeply somehow. I'm sorry, it's a lot of words. And then we get this awesome day, the end of May, here, May 22nd. It's a Tuesday. There's a grand Earth trine going on and a kite to Venus. Saturn as the tether. And it's got sextiles all around, except for one place right here. It's almost, but it's a very prophetic day in some ways. And this is sort of like, because it's got this Earth trine, it's like what we love, Venus, can be real somehow. So it's pretty cool. And then the 23rd and 24th, we have, this is the chart for the 24th, but there's Earth trines still continue on the 23rd, but on the 24th, the planets move in such a way that then it's a trine of air. So we still have like all these grand trines going on the last, like the third week of May, and this is, ideas are flowing, and but it's still dynamic because we have a grand square and cardinal signs. And those are the initiator signs. So it's even your ideas are flowing, but it's dynamic new beginnings. And so it's, good to kind of still got this watery trine here between Jupiter and Neptune, so you can nurture your healing in real ways with all this earth, all this air, and then that's what came up for me. Anyway, we move forward, because I don't want you guys to get oversaturated with all this math and stuff. The 25th, we have another trine. So we're like the third week of May, we're going to get water trines, earth trines, air trines, or get more water trines, and another kite to Pluto. And then Pluto is making a nice trine with Mercury. So it's, a depth in communications. The third week of May is going to be awesome. Yeah, feel the healing waters. And then May 26th, 27th, and 28th, this is for the 26th, we have the grand water trines continue. So that's going to keep on going. This lovely kite with Saturn is Pluto at the top of it, Venus at the base. It's nurturing your ambitions. And there is a fixed T-square too. So, that means Uranus and Pluto are still going to be in square relationship to each other. So, thankfully, we have a lot of these trines going on because, there's still a little bit of volatile energy in the air. And then the 29th of May, we have a full moon in Sagittarius. So you can see how the sun's in Gemini, moon in Sagittarius, so they're opposite. But there's a grand trine of Earth that keeps on. That's nice. Got another mystic rectangle and a whole bunch of other trines. And it's it's pretty nice. It's like some of your ideals can be elevated. So there's a kite in there too, to Pluto still. So it's a pretty dynamic full moon, but pretty awesome. Some new perspectives. There's a yacht. It's a lot of stuff going on. That's a Tuesday. It's going to be a big, busy day, I think, that day. And then the last couple of days of May, we have May 30th and 31st. This is for the 30th. A little bit easier than the chart, easier to see than the full moon one, where you can see the grand trine of water and the kite to Pluto, with Venus being its tether. So and there's also still a yacht to Saturn. So it's, still healing good vibes continue. And then June is also looking really positive because we've got trines going on the first couple of weeks of June too, especially that first week to like the 9th or 10th. So that's pretty cool because we've been kind of needing a bit of a break. It's been full-on dealing for a long time. And then all of that we're doing right now, for the bigger picture, is that, we know Pluto's going to be traveling through Capricorn until the end of 2024. And then, so by then, Pluto enters Aquarius, and we truly begin a completely different world. We're going to have a major revolution, we're going to have greater unity future thinking, more alternative technologies, deep environmental care for the earth and her creatures, social justice, entirely new political structures, which we need, and beyond. So from now until then is the death of established structures in politics and a new paradigm in the making. Because we don't like it. We don't like what's going on. And so now is the time to move towards your own inspirations and ambitions solidly as you can, knowing that there's going to be something better on the other side. That's what I got for you.